All right, what is up, guys? So myself and my friend Chris, who's helped me record this, went and played in a Ultimate Edison tournament this weekend at a store that was like an hour away from us. And they were supposed to do some pretty awesome prizing for this. There was talks about an Ultimate Rare Black Rose, an Ultimate Rare Colossal Fighter, and stuff like that. They did not have enough people to do that prizing, but I got to play some what I would consider high-level Edison, which I've been wanting to do for quite some time, and I think it went pretty well. So I really wanted to do a really competitive Edison tournament because unlike Advanced Constructed, where I feel like I'm very casual, when it comes to Edison, I really feel like I can potentially really go the distance and be a really good player in that format. So I played Vayu Turbo. It is one of my favorite decks in Edison, and I have gone undefeated with it multiple times at our locals playing Edison, and it is probably like one of the top 3 best Edison decks, and I know that waxes and wanes because one of the nice things about Edison format is that most of the played decks are competitive with each other, and so going from one event to another, you may have a Lightsworn top, or a Gladiator Beast top, or a Vayu top, or a Pure Blackwing top, or a Hero top, or a Frog top, and it just kind of goes back and forth. And it's weird how a format with a fixed card pool and a solved format can change so much in terms of like meta trends and everything. But I wanted to play Vayu Turbo. I felt like it was the deck I had the best chance of winning with, and I did pretty well. Didn't win anything because the lack of attendance resulted in only basically first place getting anything. So even if you got like top 4, you didn't really get anything. So but this is Vayu Turbo, so I blinged this out a little bit right before the event, and if you're one of those people that thinks people talking about rarities and deck profiles is cringe and annoying, then I'm not sorry. I'm having fun. So we have the 2 Armageddonite and the 2 Dark Grepher, so I only have these in common, but these are, of course, the warriors that send darks from deck to grave, as you should be familiar with. Grepher has the advantage of he can do it over the course of multiple turns, whereas Armageddonite is immediately on summon. So you only get 1 send off of Armageddonite, but Grepher requires a discard to send a dark from deck to grave, and he's really good for getting Vayus that are otherwise clumping your hand out of your hand into the graveyard. And you can also pitch Necrogardener and Plague Spreader Zombie out of your hand with his effect to Foolish for a Vayu or a Sirocco, which is really cool. I never once used his special summon effect where you can pitch a level 5 or higher to special him, because I feel like if I have a hand where I can do that, I'm just going minus in my hand so hard to accomplish that it just doesn't feel very good to do. But yeah, if you can like summon this guy, if you're going first, summon him, send a guy, set a trap to protect him, and then next turn send something else, that feels pretty good. But if I have a hand that's mostly like spells and traps, and I draw like into Rhoda or something, a gun to my head, I'll usually Rhoda for Armageddonite because I don't have to go minus a card to send from deck to grave off of Armageddonite. He just does it on summon. So the main things we're sending is Sirocco and Vayu, Necrogardener, or Plague Spreader Zombie, and the deck has a lot of utility there. It's like a toolbox deck that plays out of your graveyard, and I think it is pretty strong at doing that. Next, of course, we have the 3 Sirocco, which is just a very, very good card. It's, of course, what enables the Vayu strategy, but it is really good in the mirror match. It's really good against Pure Blackwing because of its effect to gain the attack of all Blackwings on the field. It's a 5, so it combos really well with Gale to make 8s. And, of course, you're familiar with the combo where you can, you banish the Sirocco and the Vayu in the graveyard to make an Armed Wing. We are playing 3 Vayu. Some people only play 2. I'm maxing out on this package. And then 1 Gale for the Blackwing names. There was a game that I won by being able to normal Sirocco, special Gale, and then have the attack of my opponent's like Goyo Guardian, I think, and then punch over it with this level 8 Sinker that I made for lethal. So that was, I think I made Colossal Fighter with it or something like that. So Gale is as you should be familiar with, is a pretty powerful one of in Edison, being able to have the attack of a monster that's otherwise really difficult to get rid of. It's one of the only outs to things like Judgment Dragon or a Gorz that's been dropped on you that just has a massive attack stat, and you don't have anything that can otherwise get over it. So those are the Blackwing names. I am playing 3 Caius. There was part of me that wanted to play 2 Caius and a Gorz, but then there were also times in test playing where I was like, man, if I draw a Caius right here, this goes crazy kind of thing. So I stuck with 3. I never bricked on them. There was one time I had to banish one off of an Allure, which kind of sucked. But I kind of low-key want to find a place for Gorz, but at the same time, this is a pretty trap-heavy deck. So, I don't know. I think I liked this just fine playing all 3 Caius. There are times as well where, like, you will tribute over a Sirocco or even an Armed Wing to get the banish from this guy, and then they're live in the grave for your Vayu plays. Crazy card, one of the defining cards of Edison. So this package right here, most Vayu Turbo lists that you look up will be playing a package of 3 Raikou and a Mega Hamster, and the Mega Hamster gets you to the Raikou. And the Raikou is a staple card of Edison, but what you think would be happening is the Mega Hamster gets you to the Raikou mills cards, so you're going to be milling those Vayus and those other graveyard toolbox cards. But I'm playing this package and a copy of Charge of the Light Brigade, and the reason for that is the Charge of the Light Brigade is an insane card to draw on its own. So if you see Charge of the Light Brigade, you're milling cards proactively before the end phase of your turn, and you are either searching a Raikou or the Lila. I wanted 2 Lightsworn names in deck in case I had gone through the Raikous, and I wanted to make sure the Charge of the Light Brigade could resolve. And Lila is basically just a slightly worse breaker than Magical Warrior. Like, it's a spell and trap removal on legs, and it's a light attribute. We're playing a Chaos Sorcerer in here, so I figured I wanted another light to make that potentially live. And I did like this quite a bit. There was my round 2 opponent was a Machina player who did this exact same thing. They were otherwise playing just like Machina, but they weren't playing the gadget version. They were playing the version that plays Raikou and Mega Hamster, but they also played Charge of the Light Brigade to get Lila. And I'm pretty happy with that. I think, I'm trying to remember if I popped anything. It was mostly, so like twice today, this just forced out a bottomless, basically. It was like summon it with priority, go to pop the bottomless, they chain the bottomless, and it's like, okay, well, I guess it did its job for what it's worth. Next we have one of, so we got Card Trooper. The draw for this guy came up a lot. Beats over Shura, beats over Kaiku, beats over some of the Gladiator Beast names at 1900, and the mill 3 on summon helps to do it proactively on your own turn. So again, it's like you're getting the mills on the graveyard on your own turn, and you can do something with those cards instead of milling in the end phase and waiting for next turn to be able to do something with them. This Dark-Armed Dragon just wins games on his own. I want to say this card has like a 100% win rate when I see it. And I said that to one of my opponents. I was like, I think this card just wins the game every time it's summoned. And he agreed with me, and there was one game where, I think it was like game 2 or 3 of that match, he dust shooted it back into my deck because I opened it. Because he was like, I don't want to deal with that card again. That card was crazy. And there was shenanigans where like, you have like Armageddon Knight, Vayu, and Sirocco in graveyard. Drop this guy, banish the Armageddon Knight to pop one of your opponent's cards, and then you can do Vayu stuff, and then you can like Bureau from a different dimension to put those cards back. And yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Not always live. There was a game where the game 2 against the Machina player, it was very, very late into game 2. I had won game 1. And like 2/3 of my deck, if not more, were in the graveyard. So I drew this, and I knew it was not going to be live. So I ended up putting it back on the top of my deck for Plague Spreader. We'll just talk about him now. And synchroed with Plague Spreader and one of the Armed Wings to make Colossal Fighter, which ended up allowing me to win the game. So even though he was a dead draw at that point, I still got value off of it. Necro Garden is pretty standard in this list. It's another dark you can send from deck to graveyard, or if you mill it, it's that extra protection. Came up a lot. And then Chaos Sorcerer. So some lists don't play this, and you are playing a pretty low amount of lights. I'm only playing the Raikos and the Lila. That's only 4, so it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but you're likely to see them pretty easily. And then I had a situation where I didn't have any lights in grave, but I had Foolish Burial, and I was like, I could just Foolish Burial for a light right now just to make Chaos Sorcerer alive. I don't know if I did that, but it was like an option that I had. The card, when I did play this guy, he was crazy. He outed a Dupe Frog. He outed a Machina Fortress when I had 0 cards in my hand. Like, it was really, 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 really good. I think outing the Dupe Lock and banishing one of the Dupe Frogs was one of the reasons why I won that particular game against the Frog Monarch player. And that's it for the monsters. It's 23 monsters. Spells are all one-ofs, as is typically the case with Edison. So we have Charge the Light Brigade, which I talked about. Like I said, I wanted 2 Lightsworn names in deck to be able to make sure this is always live. A lot of it, Vayu Turbo lists don't play this, but I like this package quite a bit. Rhoda, we're trying to see the Armageddon Knight and the Dark Grepher, and Armageddon Knight is semi-limited in this format, so this is basically your 3rd copy and helps deck thin. There's no counterplay against this in a format like this. There's no Ash Blossom, there's no Droll, there's no Mistake, so there's no way to stop your opponent from searching. This is the craziest card in this deck. Lets you put 3 banished cards back into your graveyard. So this also had an extremely high win rate for me. I think this lets you put a Vayu and a Sirocco that you've already banished for that Vayu's effect back into the graveyard to then do it again, which is crazy. It puts fuel for Dark-Armed Dragon's Pops back in the graveyard. I had one point against the Frog player, he had a Swap Frog on the field, or Dupe Frog. I think it was Dupe Frog. I Brain Con Dupe Frog, normal Plague Spreader, made Armory Arm, and he like deprisoned the Armory Arm. So then I played this to put the Armory Arm back in the graveyard and banished it for Chaos Sorcerer. It was really good. Foolish Burial just lets you get anything you want of the dark names I mentioned, the Vayu, the Sirocco, the Plague Spreader, or the Necrogardener, or even a light for Chaos Sorcerer. Brain Control was crazy whenever I saw it. I preferred this over Mind Control for this deck because I can still synchro with it if it's a tuner. I contribute it for Caius. I can attack with it. So if it's like a really big body and I can make a lethal push, this is, I think, one of the best cards in Edison for sure. Heavy Storm, because you have to play it. It's a card that you absolutely must respect in Edison, because if you set every trap in your hand, you will lose to Heavy Storm eventually. MST came up a little bit. I think there was a time against the Machina player where he had his Fortress equipped with Gear Frame, and I MST'd the Gear Frame or something. And we have Allure. Never got punished by this. I had to banish the Caius the one time, but it's limited in this format, so we can only play the one. And then Book of Moon. I talk about the merits of Book of Moon. There's a lot of Edison decks where I play 3 Book of Moon, because it is at 3 in this format, and I just like back row that is chainable to removal. So if your opponent goes to MST or Heavy Storm or Lila, this is a card that can be chained to those effects so that you can still get value off of this even if it's targeted for destruction. And that's it for the spells. Traps, we're playing 2 Deep Prison and 2 Bottomless. I think these are both semi-limited in this format, if I'm not mistaken. Deep Prison might be a 3, I'll have to double check. And if I was going second in game 2, I would side out 1 copy of each of these, because they definitely are way worse going second if I won game 1. But of course these are crazy. My opponents were pretty smart about playing around these though, so I really wanted to banish Machina Fortress off of this. And my opponent played around it very well, but I still think it's absolutely worth playing. It's the weird thing of like waiting for your opponent to battle feels bad in this format because chances are they're going to remove the card in your back row before you get a chance to activate a card like Deep Prism. But being able to banish the guy that they're attacking with is so much more permanent of removal than destroying it or whatever. Then it's crazy when it works. So I think it's a card that, again, most decks play it. So Dust Shoot is a completely unfair card, as you should be well aware of. I saw this at least once per match, whether it was me seeing it or my opponent seeing it. The hand knowledge is one of the best parts about this, even not just being able to put a card back, but also the hand knowledge. I put a Sirocco back off of this. I put a Machina Gear Frame back off of this. My opponent put my Dark Arm Dragon back off of this. But one of the things that's interesting, so I learned today that the decks that play a lot of those draw one traps, like the Jar of Greed and the Legacy of Yatagarasu, one of the unintended benefits of those cards is that they circumvent the power of the hand knowledge that you get from Trap Dust Shoot. So if you Dust Shoot your opponent, you have perfect hand knowledge. But if all of the cards in their hand are those draw one spells, then by the time your next turn comes around, they've replaced all those cards in their hand with something else. So you don't have hand knowledge anymore of what they're playing at all. And it's not like a situation where a modern deck where they search things, you know what they've searched, you know what their combo pieces are. This is just a raw draw. So the first round was a Vayu mirror match, and he was playing like triple Upstart and like triple some combination of Jar of Greed and Legacy of Yata, and just like completely cycled his hand off of after I Dust Shooted him. So the hand knowledge was not really relevant at all. Very interesting decision making there in terms of this deck. So Mirror Force, it's like Heavy Storm. It's another card you have to respect. It's limited. Same thing with Torrential. You have to respect this. I had a moment where I almost activated this against the Frog player when he revived Treeborn, and then I was like, I can't do that because the Treeborn's just going to come back anyway. But he had like, I would have 2-for-1'd him with the, he had swap and Treeborn, but I'm like, no, he just, at that rate, it just loses the swap because the Treeborn just comes right back. And then the last card in the main deck is Return from a Different Dimension. So I was main decking Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment is in the side deck, and it comes in if I'm going first in game 3. But this card was crazy. This card won me game 1 against the Machina player, where I made Armor Master and played through some interaction that he had, and then went to the battle phase, activated this, and hit him with the Armor Master, the Armed Wing, the Sirocco, and 2 Vayus for lethal. It was crazy. So this card, it's not always live. I side it out if I'm going second in game 2, but wow, was it powerful when it did come up. So that's it for the main, and so it's a flat 40. For the extra deck, we have, of course, the Blackwing names. So we've got 2 of the Armed Wing, it's the Lost Art, 2 Armor Master, and 1 of the Silverwind. Never made this guy this weekend, but it does come up. My opponent in the mirror match did make him. So for those of you not familiar with this deck, the way it works is you banish a Vayu plus the Sirocco to make the Armed Wing. You banish a Vayu plus the Armed Wing to make the Armor Master. You banish a Vayu plus the Armor Master to make the Silverwind. And they're all vanillas when you do that. The guy facing around when I actually did not know that they're negated when that happens. I'm like, you probably need to reread the effect of Vayu because they're vanillas when there's some in there. But a lot of times that's enough to get just a big body like that costs you 0 cards in hand to do it. Feels really powerful. And again, if you do it off of like Grepher or Armageddon Knight, you still keep that body on the field, so the damage adds up really quickly, and that's like the main attraction of this deck, is being able to do stuff like that. For the generic synchros, Armory Arm, we did make this guy the one time like I talked about, but I never made him and equipped him to like Colossal Fighter or anything like that. Catastor, I had the ability to make this guy at one point, but it wouldn't have mattered because everything my opponent was playing was dark. But this card is extremely good against the Machina deck. It's one of the best outs to Machina Fortress that there is. And I think it's also good in the Gladiator Beast matchup because it wins combat with everything that's not dark. The best level 6s, of course, in Edison, Brio and Goyo. I never summoned Brio this weekend, but I summoned Goyo, I think 3 or 4 times. Black Rose are best 7. So if you have Greffer or Armageddon Knight and you can get Gale on the field, that's how you make this. And it does threaten to force out all of your opponent's back row or something like that. Never ran into Starlight Road this weekend at all either. Nobody seemed to be playing that. I played my Collector's Rare Stardust for this, which I'm pretty happy about. The only real money card that I shelled out for this weekend to bling out this deck. But yeah, played my Collector's Rare Stardust. Played my Secret Rare Colossal Fighter, Secret Rare Thought Ruler, Secret Rare Dark End. Being able to make Dark End in this deck is also really good because the fact that it just can send anything is really powerful. And Colossal Fighter won me a game. Thought Ruler being able to be protected against targeting is really good as well. And then the last card, of course, was Mega Fleet. So I was... Not Mega Fleet, Fortress. So I was... some people were playing Mistworm in this spot. And I was just like, man, I am never going to be able to make a 9 that requires 3 materials. That is not going to happen. So I was like, I'm just going to put the Fortress in there in case I have that machine matchup. And I did have that matchup, but I did not get a chance to do the Fortress. I didn't get a chance to do the Cyber Dragon Eat Everything play, but I was playing it. Side deck, so I feel pretty good about the side deck. There was only one card in here that I never sided in, but I still think it was a good choice. So we played 2 DD Crow. I sided this in the Vayu mirror. I sided it in against the Machina deck to try to banish Fortress. And I sided it in against Frogs to try to banish Treeborn Frog. It's not that good against the Frog deck because they're going to get their second copy of Treeborn so easily that it ends up not having that much value. But if you're playing against Diva Hero and they send their 1 Treeborn Frog, it's probably better. But against pure Frogs, it doesn't really have that much value. We played 2 Kaiku. This card is silly because it specifically says your opponent cannot banish cards from either graveyard. So you can still banish from your graveyard to do Vayu shenanigans, but your opponent cannot banish to do DD Crow or their own Vayu stuff or their own Chaos stuff or whatever. So that was pretty good. We played the 2 Cyber Dragon. These came in a lot of times if I was going second in game 2. Came in against the Machina player, obviously. It's another light for Chaos Sorcerer. It beats over some of the Gladiator Beast names. It beats over Sirocco. Assuming you're not playing against Pure Blackwing, in which case they may have Kalut, but if you're playing against Vayu Turbo, it beats Sirocco every time. This, I think, was the MVP of my side deck. So, Soul Release was really good against Frogs. I banished every single Frog name, including both dupes and both Treeborn Frogs. This won me the game against Frogs. It was good against It's good against Lightsworn. It's one of the only hard counters I have to the Lightsworn matchup. And when Chris and I were testing, the Lightsworn deck was very, very good against this deck. And some people at the tournament echoed that sentiment. But this is a very hard counter to... yeah. Deck dev. So a lot of people are main decking deck dev in this deck. I chose to put it in the side to play some different traps, but I absolutely sided it in against the Frog player. And I unfortunately opened both copies of it in game 3, which wasn't fun. But he did admit to me later, he was like, yeah, deck dev is a card that absolutely hoses that matchup. So, and I had my Vayu mirror match use this against me. So apparently it's not that bad in that matchup either, because it hits Armageddon Knight, it hits Raikou, it hits a lot of stuff in the deck. I never sided this in. I want to get a second Speed Duel Secret Rare because these look crazy. Never sided in the Dust Tornado, but I do defend it. It's a good out to certain certain traps that like you don't have enough backer removal to hit because the other main backer removal cards at Edison are limited. So True Nade is limited, Heavy Storm is limited, MST is limited, so Dust Tornado is just more backer removal. Solemn Judgment I talked about would come in going first every game 3. And I really wanted to main deck this, but I replaced it with Return from the Different Dimension and put this in the side, and I think that was fine. And then 2, Royal Oppression. So Royal Oppression was really good in this deck because even though it gives your opponent the ability to do it, if you are summoning off of Vayu, you can just keep doing it forever. So they don't want to pay the 8 because it doesn't actually stop Vayu. So it's very advantageous to be able to stop things like a Judgment Dragon summon or a Machina Fortress summon or something like that. Or even like a fusion summon for an absolute 0 or anything like that. But it doesn't let your opponent stop your Vayu. I mean, it does, but then you can just do it again, so you're forcing them to pay 8 for nothing. So really powerful card in this deck, a card that I am very glad has seen less play in Edison over the years, because this is one of the cards that I feel like is a black mark on Edison because it is so unfun to play against. I actually kind of hate this card from a design standpoint, but it is very playable in this deck. So that's the 15 side. So yeah, that's it. Had a good time. Don't think I would change a whole lot about the list. I would definitely have played better in specific situations, but overall I think it was a fantastic time, and can't wait to do it again. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.